So, today we're going to dive into a really powerful and, let's be honest, ancient framework for getting a more joyful, more stable perspective on life. It's all drawn directly from the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to explore how this amazing text offers a blueprint for changing our entire experience of life.
Okay, let's kick things off with a question you've probably noticed in your own life, right? Two people can go through the exact same thing, and for one person, it's a total disaster, while for the other, it's an opportunity, or maybe they just find it entertaining. As we're about to see, the answer isn't really about the world itself, but it's all about the mind that's looking at it.
And the Gita lays this out super clearly. On one side, you've got the deluded view, where life just feels like this constant roller coaster of pleasure and pain. But on the other side, there's the wise view, which sees that exact same world as a source of, entertainment. The whole goal is to move from that first column over to the second. But how do we do that?
To get there, we first have to really understand the root of the problem. That feeling, that sense that life is a constant struggle, it all comes from a very specific concept the Gita calls the delusion of duality.
Now, what's so fascinating about this is the diagnosis it offers. It's basically saying that the struggle we feel isn't with our jobs, or other people, or our circumstances. The real struggle is internal. Think about that. It's a pretty radical idea. Our suffering isn't actually caused by the world, but by the filter we see it through. The text is very clear. The problem is a limitation inside our own minds.
So, if the mind is the cause, what is this limitation exactly? Where does this bias, this thing that colors our entire experience of life, actually come from? Let's break it down.
And here it is, the delusion of duality. At its core, it's the mind's automatic, almost unconscious habit of labeling absolutely everything. Oh, I like this, I want more of that. Ugh, I dislike that, I need to get away from it. This constant sorting of everything into two piles, desire and hatred, is exactly what creates that roller coaster of pleasure and pain.
And get this isn't something we just pick up over time. According to this verse, it's basically our default setting. We are literally born into this state of delusion, hardwired with all these likes and dislikes. It's a fundamental part of the human condition that we have to actively work to overcome.
So what's the real-world consequence of living in this state of duality? Well, it creates a kind of spiritual junk food addiction. Our mind actively pushes away the nutritious wisdom that could bring us lasting peace, and instead it chases after the empty calories of temporary pleasures, which just keeps us stuck on that roller coaster.
Okay, so that's the problem. But the great thing about the Gita is that it doesn't just diagnose, it gives us a prescription. There's a practical, step-by-step path we can follow to start refining our minds and breaking free from this delusion. And it all begins with something called Dharma. Here we have it, a clear, four-step path to clarity. It all starts with Dharma, or right action. When you start living rightly, it begins to purify your mind, and that, in turn, weakens the grip of all your automatic biases. As those likes and dislikes start to fade, you gain real discernment, the ability to see reality for what it is. And you know what? A mind that sees clearly will naturally start seeking a deeper, more permanent truth. Each step just flows right into the next. And this is a really crucial point. This whole process isn't some lonely battle you have to fight against your own mind. The text says that when we make the effort, when we really try to live a life of right action, a higher power, the absolute truth, actually steps in and helps us. It helps dissolve those deep-seated preferences that cause so much trouble in the first place.
So what happens after you've been on this path for a while, after the mind is significantly more refined, while the whole focus of the journey shifts? It moves from that internal cleanup to an ultimate grand pursuit.
So the key thing to catch in this verse is that direct link between action and seeking. It's the people of noble action, the ones who have put in the work to purify their minds, who are finally freed from that delusion of duality. And what do they do with that newfound freedom? They seek something higher, and they do it with a whole new level of determination.
You see, at this stage, seeking the absolute truth isn't just a hobby anymore, or some interesting philosophical idea. It becomes the central, most serious pursuit of your life. And why is that? Because it becomes crystal clear that this is the only path to what the text calls joyful living, a state that's way beyond the constant ups and downs of pleasure and pain.
So what does that destination actually look like? What does it really mean to achieve this state of joyful living? Well, the final verses of this chapter give us a very clear, very detailed picture.
And this is what it's all about. It's not about just feeling happy in some fleeting way. It's a deep, profound, and stable understanding of reality itself. I mean, look at the depth here. It's knowing everything from Brahman, the absolute, to the very nature of your own self. It's a complete grasp of karma, the law of action. A clarity so unshakable that it stays with you even at the moment of death.
And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole passage. It's a simple, direct, and incredibly profound statement. True, unwavering, joyful living isn't found by changing our circumstances. It's found by gaining this ultimate knowledge of absolute reality. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to reflect on. We spend so much time and energy trying to rearrange the world outside of us to fit all of our likes and dislikes. But what if the source text is right? What if real freedom and real lasting joy comes not from changing our life, but from fundamentally changing the very mind that perceives it?